Right now, I'm in the middle of doing a leak test on my latest DIY cold plunge design. So I thought it was a good time to make a best practices video on what to do during a leak test. I've gotten questions about this in the Facebook group, and I've also seen posts of people doing it too late in the game or doing a few things wrong. So I just want to touch on what, when, and how to do a leak test, and what to do if, unfortunately, you have leaks. First, my name's Joe with DIY Cold Plunge. My website, DIYcoldplunge.com, has plans and products that will help you save thousands of dollars by building your own cold plunge. I have a number of different plans available, along with my latest cold plunge design that I'm launching this November. If you'd like more information on that and an early access discount, make sure to hit the link in the description below. So what is a leak test? It is testing your system for leaks. And this primarily happens at the inlet and outlet holes where you have bulkheads or spa fittings, but it can also happen at any other connection throughout your plumbing system, whether that's your pump, your chiller, your filtration, and your return back to the tank. When should you do a leak test? This will depend on the type of cold plunge that you're building. For stock tank builds that have an enclosure, you'll want to do a leak test after you've wrapped the top and have the sides hanging loosely, you've installed your top panel, and then of course you've completed your plumbing system. So basically at that point everything will be finished except for insulation, the wrapping of the sides of your cold plunge, and the siding and venting around the outside. If you're building the luxury design from my site, you can do this almost at the very end. The beauty of that plan is that the outlet and return to your tank are located in the mechanical area. So you can finish almost the entire build except for insulating that panel, do your leak test, ensure that everything's good to go, and then insulate that last panel. If you're doing a build outside of those two designs, it's just gonna depend on what you all have going on. In most cases, you need to make sure you do your leak test before insulation. And that's just because if you do your leak test after that, it's gonna be a whole lot more work to try to fix those leaks and then re-insulate. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about how to do a leak test, or what my best practices and recommendations are. The first thing is that you have to have visible access to every hole on your tank. For stock tanks and luxury builds, having your cold plunge on the ground is just fine. If you've drilled holes or have drains on the bottom of your build, you're gonna need to elevate that off the ground to again have visible access to those spots. So that's part number one. Next is time to hook everything up. Make sure all of your plumbing, including your unions, pump, chiller, filter housing, and ozone tube are all in place. From there, make sure any ball valves that are connected to a drain are shut off, and we'll want to add water to prime your pump. And remember that these pumps are gravity fed, so you will need water flowing freely to the pump for it to work. During the initial fill, you may need to unhook the outlet portion of your chiller to allow proper airflow for water to flow freely down to your pump and properly prime it. After your pump has been primed, reconnect that attachment on the outlet side of your chiller. During a leak test, I recommend filling water just above the return line on your tank. Beyond that, you don't need to fill it anymore, but we need to make sure that we're testing the return fitting for leaks. Now that everything is connected, you have water in the tank, and your ball valves are all pointing in the right direction, it's time to turn your pump on to actually do the leak test. I recommend a 24-hour leak test, starting with 12 hours running just your pump. This way you'll be able to check for leaks without battling condensation with the chilled water. Once you've done that and everything's good to go ahead and fire up your chiller and run it for another 12 hours. The reason we want to do both is to, one, clear the hurdle of are there any leaks to begin with, and then two, with that colder water, there's potential for expansion and contraction, and we want to make sure that everything is sealed up enough and stay watertight no matter what temperature it is. And then after that window of time, you know for a fact that your system is either leaking or not. Another thing you want to do during the leak test is test your venturi to see if the vacuum has been created to pull ozone into your water line. The easiest way that I've found to do this is attach your hose and check valve in the proper direction, and then use a cup of water to see if it pulls the water through into that venturi. Once you've done all that and your system has ran for at least 24 hours, if you've got no leaks, you're good to go. You can drain your tub, disconnect your pump and chiller, and then finish insulating and building the rest of your cold plunge. If there are leaks, that's unfortunate, but we're at the perfect spot in this build to address those, fix them, and then move on. It's a lot easier and cheaper to do this now than later. And that does mean that you may need to reseal some bulkheads or spa fittings, or redo parts of your plumbing entirely. And like I said, it sucks, but at least you've found them at this point versus further on in your build. So that's it in a nutshell. Those are the best practices that I've come up with. Again, if you've gotten any value out of this video or are looking to build a cold plunge and just don't know where to start, make sure to check out DIYcoldplunge.com. I've got tons of plans and products to help you build one of these for yourself. That's it for now, guys. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you at the next video.